All right, welcome everybody. This is your weekly Market Inflections webinar here with Alex Bernal and Sang Lucci. Remember, we are doing up the turning point signals, and this is a new service here that offers buy and sell signals based on basically extensions and compression signals. And we'll show a couple examples of these as well. Last week we threw out a free trade for you guys, and it was the straddle on some of the indexes, just gauging the massive compressions that you're seeing on IWM and SPY. And you notice already, you were starting to see a lot of that volatility just, push us in all kinds of directions. If you guys were watching Friday, it really looked like we were going to come off. Like, it really looked like we were going to sell off considerably. All the bank stocks, even the tech names, they started dropping these names. Amazon here, I remember being down 10, 15 points over the course of a couple of days. Google, same thing. Netflix, you name it. So things were looking pretty weak going into the Friday close. And then all of a sudden, today, you just had that slow bid, and guess what Amazon does today? Puts up a 17-point day. Everything comes back like nothing happened. This is just going to make the compression even stronger, wouldn't you say, Alex, for the indexes here moving forward?
Right. I mean, one of the things I noticed going into Friday was the VIX curve was actually inverted. So there's a lot of risk management that gets automatically triggered during that type of environment. I even actually have a protocol I have to follow with some hedging. If the VIX curve goes inverted, if the curvature has a specific behavior. So it's kind of this systematic thing that you notice when those things start happening. The S&P also was either dipping or below the 50-day moving average, which I don't think is really of any true relevance, but you got a lot of people that are puking below that level there.
Yep.
JP Morgan bank earnings were pretty amazing, and I think Bank America is either tomorrow or right now.
Yep, we're still seeing some of the banks. If you notice, the bank came right back. By the way, there is a huge October, I like to call them the double long john silvers. So if you guys take a look at the October strike on the Bank of America, this guy came in and sold an ass ton of puts. If you guys don't know what an ass ton is, I mean, I'm sure you can figure it out. I'm sure you can figure it out. These were all on Octobers. I think he sold the 18 puts. I think they might be a little bit more than that. Maybe he sold the 20s, and then he went out to buy like the 25s. I don't know why I'm not seeing October here, but he put out millions here, millions. Wow. On both sides of the trade. He was a day early too. It looked like Friday we were going to tank, and I was like, this guy's going to get killed. And then boom, this thing's trading right back here to 23 bucks. This sets up for an interesting signal that Alex caught in Wells Fargo here. So you want to go ahead and set that up for him, man.
So, Wells Fargo, there's so much scandal around it. Usually names like this, you get really good extension signals just because there's frantic buying and selling both ways. You had this signal technically Friday, end of day, and then you see here the first day that it reacts off of that signal. Now this is the type of setup that I personally look for put spreads, out of the money put spread writing. The volatility on this, I bet you collapsed pretty hard today, and I would assume going forward it would basically dribble back down to normal levels.
Right, so why don't we set up a trade for him? Why don't we set up a trade for him for the Wells Fargo here? So assuming here you're betting on not necessarily a reversal, but a sort of destruction of that, of that implied volatility on the put side. And I'll pull up a couple of charts here of what some of the front months did. I'm sure they just got completely wrecked. Let's take a look at these Mays. But what would be the trade here going forward for somebody betting on, let's say, a bounce here? I know the best trade you're saying is the put spreads, and I agree with that completely. But let's say somebody wanted to take a long here. What's the play?
You could probably look at the 50, 48 put spread. Try to get. I don't know what it's trading for, but I would try to get.
Yeah, here's your vol collapsing here, buddy.
Yeah, there it is.
Indeed.
I would try to get as much as you can. You could probably make that a little wider if it's not too juicy, but
Yep.
you know, essentially create a trade that you're just betting Wells Fargo doesn't go down over the next 30 days.
Yep.
That's, you know, my guidance there, but
Yeah,
try.
absolutely. And guys, you can really manage your risk on these particular trades. You know, you can go far, you can go a decent amount out of the money and still get some solid premium. You know, if you're out a month and maybe at the most here you're out a month and change. Luckily with these weeklies here, you have the ability to go out a month and a half. You know, if you really want to exact your kind of timing here. If you want to get a little bit, you know, more aggressive, you know, doing it at the lows here is not that bad of an idea, but, you know, you're going to have to allow your put spread more room. You know, so I don't know as far as your stops, what you would recommend here for Alex here for them. Usually what I do when I'm writing put spreads is, let's say I go ahead and write this thing for 50 cents. I'll usually put a stop, depending on how much time I have, at around 100% to 200% of that option price. So I'll put a stop maybe at around $1 to $2, or sorry, $1 to $1.50, probably somewhere around the middle, depending on what I'm paying for the other leg here. You know, to make my spread. That's usually my general rule of thumb. Alex, what do you, you know, what do you recommend?
That's a pretty good rule of thumb. I'm kind of more along the lines of just let it bleed out
Yep.
all the time, and
You
then
want that premium, baby. You want
yeah,
that.
you know, maybe 5-7 days left. Just kind of look at it, and
Yep.
if there's enough there, just take it. But
Just take it.
right, you know, just you know,
Yeah.
it's good
Yeah.
to buy it back if it just completely collapses.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think we're getting a lot of questions on bullish and bearish at this point, you know, as far as the indexes go. And you remember the free trade we threw out last week on the, you know, the straddle SPY or the
Right.
IWM. You know, there's a lot of folks that as soon as they get a move in one direction, they want to go ahead and let go of the strike that's not working and then allow the strike that at the moment is working to go here. So what would you say, you know, to folks like this? And I know this happens to a lot of people who take straddles, and this is one big thing that we recommend here at Turning Point Signals, you know, through this particular service here, is that you don't want to let go of these legs. You don't want to let go of these legs, because if you trade them just like you would a directional position, chances are you're going to open yourself out to a lot of these fake outs and a lot of these moves that aren't necessarily real. Now, how are you going to know? That's the point. You know what I mean? You're not always going to know when these things are real or not. Hence why the straddle is so key, and holding on to both sides of that damn straddle is so key as well. So, Alex, what would you recommend here for a trader who
Yeah,
you know, lets go of that one side too damn early?
well, this particular signal was kind of head fake because we did look at this and say, okay, this should start to move here.
Yep.
It
Yep.
made a first initiate move that to me was valid enough to assume it was going to keep going lower today. It still
Yep.
might, but
Yep.
it didn't really quote unquote break out in my mind from this signal. So this signal to me hasn't even really come to fruition yet. Yeah. So
Yep.
again, it's a non-directional signal. People that haven't seen this before, these blue clusters basically mean that the market has had extreme mean reversion. So there's an absence of trend. There's a provable absence of any trend at this point. So now this is saying that we're going to have a new trend going forward.
Right.
This trend will last quite a long time. If you take the length of time that log periodic cycling, basically those dashed lines are being drawn, you see how that's like 5 months?
Yep.
That's essentially 5 months. So the prediction for this signal is that price will start to move in one direction and it will persist for about 5 months into that direction. So, you know, 1 day, 2 days doesn't make a trend, but this is really something that is going to unfold here in the next week.
And that's how powerful the straddle can be, you know. So let's say you go ahead and remember that trade is still on. That trade is still on. In fact, to me, just like you know what Alex was saying, this trade hasn't even freaking started yet. If you were to go out to June's, if you were to go out to July's, which is what we were recommending last week, you know, to play this particular move, and look at how many freaking, I forgot, this thing always does the Wednesdays. Here we go. So if we're out to June here and we're doing a straddle here, 235 by 235, remember you're talking about a month, you know, several month move here, And selling this option at, let's say, $3 while this one is at 5 or 6, you're not really helping yourself. You're not really doing yourself that much of a favor here if the move that is expected is going to be so extended. You're talking about SPY getting to maybe 250 on the upside, or
Yeah.
getting to 220 here on the downside, or possibly even more. This option is going to be worth at some point 15 to 20 bucks here.
Right.
So bailing on these things prematurely is just going to get you into a more directionally biased trade. And come on, you guys know how many directionally biased trades actually work out that well for you. If you're trying to fire those things off, especially in the options world. Where timing is always a factor here. All right. So moving on here, what else we got for them? We got Intel compression here that's still there. By the way, I'm still in Microsoft. Let me go ahead and update some of the open positions that we have through Turning Point Signals. Intel is not one of them, but it should be. It should be. We're thinking about throwing one out on this one. This would be a straddle here. I am completely long Microsoft right now. I'm still long Microsoft right now. Still like some of the tech names. As you can see with the Netflix posting earnings here, after hours looking good. This thing took everybody for a ride too. This one had monster compressions on it. I still don't even know, if if this thing is shooting to the moon. There was a 150 call buyer that bought a really good amount of this, but it was so hard to sit through some of this chop. And that's why I said compressions can really help us out as far as the timing goes. So I'm long Microsoft right now. We got the Visa here. Alex, you want to set up the Visa here for us?
I mean, a lot of these big names, when they get compressions near 52-week highs or a significant, historic high, these are locally a really nice thing that we focus on. The Intel, for example, what it basically tells you is the price of the stock got bid up to a high point that has memory to the participants, and any new positive news will really slingshot this to kind of a new level of price acceptance. So
Yep.
It's one of my top 5 favorite local setups is to look for weekly or daily compressions at or near 52-week highs, because it's all clear skies above here. There's no quote unquote resistance of above 91.
Right.
So it's kind of something that we just rinse and repeat, look for all the time. Is another good example of this is CELG.
Celgene. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Celgene is a name I'm watching like a hawk here. It has a 135 compression at 52-week highs, and a lot of these pharma names and bio names are really the only bright spots of double-digit growth in all the large caps. So a lot of hedge funds really chase these once they start going, because they need movement. And,
right. If you look at this REGN, we got a compression here going on the REGN. IBB right now is a pretty big deal. Let me go ahead and pull, I think, IBB up. Yeah, so IBB still is hanging around the 290 area. And if you look back historically on some of the signals that got put out on IBB through this particular software here, you got a monster top up here, compression here that's working here. A big breakaway from that compression. Look at this buy down here, and again, so these signals do help point us in the right direction. Again, we got to figure out the right strategy.
We're looking for 60 bucks in this, right? I mean, that's if you just look at the swings, we're looking for 60 bucks either way.
Yep.
I'm just slightly bullish on this, but that it's going to move and it's going to make a big move. So remember, what I do is I strip out what the top 5 holdings are in most ETFs when they get a signal. Celgene is one of them. Biomed, Gilead, which is kind of a dead, dying nail right now. I don't think that thing's going to move, but there's some pretty good signals in here that will start to really kick off if there's any news, good or bad, here in this pipeline. Another one that I've been watching that's sort of the same play is the IHE. It's the pharma ETF on the bottom right there. This is actually kind of why my bullishness is as such, because this is already starting to go. You can see it's already broken higher. on a really good signal. You see the little 100 in there. So
Right.
it's just hinting to me that it wants to go higher. And again, pharma and healthcare was the worst performing sector last year, actually, well, before retail. And so you usually see a snapback reversion. Again, this is a extreme growth sector,
Right.
so I wouldn't be surprised if this kept going from here.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're going to bring in a couple more signals. Do you guys have any names that you guys want us to take a look at for you? Remember, the idea here is go to marketinflections.com/launch. This is the last week that you're going to get the coupon here for 50% off on the first month. And again, when you take a look at Market Inflections, you can take a look at the track record that we have. These are all on closed trades at the moment here. Let's go ahead and make sure we pull this up. So you can take a look at our track record, trades that we've made here, trades that we recommended. Thus far, the trades that are open right now, we don't throw here on the sheet until they are closed. But again, we do a lot of straddles here, a lot of options plays. You can play equity as well. So when we send out an alert, let's say for an IWM straddle or let's say a long Microsoft, we'll also send out equity alerts as well. So any of you guys have trade equities, you want a little hedge here for your equity position, we got you covered there as well. You're going to get the futures here soon too. And again, we're using primarily the same science here for each one of these trades here. Let me bring out another trade here that we're throwing out. And actually, now that I'm looking at it more closely here, I'm kind of scared about it. This Visa here, where we have a straddle. I have a straddle on a Visa. That's a 90 strike, right? And I put it on when the stock was at around 90 bucks. And it was great. It was a good idea here because the put side is actually saving my ass right now. And now, Alex, that I'm looking at these weekly tops, you see on this Visa right here, it's you would, if you would look at this, you would say, okay, we got a longer time frame top, and then we're going for a move down, correct? I mean, that's how you would look at this originally here.
Yeah, that's
a lot of buyers out there, right. A lot of call option buyers out there still, especially for MasterCard as well. MasterCard looks the same, by the way. So what would you say on this Visa here?
No, you're definitely right. I mean, you got to have a slight downward bias because of the weekly signal. But again, what I like to say with these is don't switch time frames. If you're trading the 190, stick to the 190. Now, look at other time frames, but don't let those other time frames change your initial decision, because really this signal is a local signal. The one that you're making the trade off of is 195. And so, that's going to be the one that's going to pay you. Yeah, and if you take a look at Visa, that's another name that's at those all-time highs. We're talking about all-time highs right here at the at the 90 area here. If you take a look at MasterCard, you'll see the same damn thing. Today's action was really good, especially on the banks. MasterCard is the same thing. You're seeing the same compression. Either one of these two are going to make big moves, and of course, we know the catalyst is coming right around the freaking corner because it's earnings season, and I freaking hate earnings season. I don't know about you guys. How many of you guys actually enjoy earnings season? I want to know how many of you guys actually trade earnings aggressively, and how many of you guys actually enjoy it here. Alex, what say you on earnings season? I'm not a big long premium player on earnings season, but I do sit here and grip the edge of my seat for a lot of positions that I have, because when you get a good beat, there's nothing like going home, with the stock up 5% after hours. That's a nice feeling, and it's a pretty terrible feeling the other way when you got to go puke, tomorrow morning, a huge gap down. So I don't know. What's interesting is I look at the valuations on a global scale, and the whole market hasn't really had uniform valuation increases over, say, since the election. The big sectors that have seen really drastic valuation improvements are semiconductors, so anything Internet of Things. Right. Pharma is now stabilizing. Healthcare is now stabilizing. But you really saw the industrials and materials and some of those other Trump trades, they went up with really not a lot of internal strength in the fundamentals. So, in the short term, it's not a big deciding factor, but it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're going through earnings season. This is one of my favorite trades here, by the way. I really think this is going to be
Yeah, with the Baba, I think this is hands down one of our best trades that we have going right now.
Yeah.
We alerted buyers to go after the May 110 strike, and coincidentally too, there's a lot of call buying for this particular strike alone. I think open interest on this one has reached about 36,000 open contracts today. Only they bought the same month, and they bought the 120s. And this thing's got earnings in a couple of weeks, so who knows? But today's action was incredible. They really held this Baba up despite Friday's action. This was Friday's action, and they didn't sell off this thing. They didn't sell this thing at all, and that's what kind of gave me a lot of confidence with this particular trade. Remember, 112 is all-time highs. Like, we're already here. And any break of these particular areas here, you get the stops that just disappear. You get those market orders here that really press. So there's going to be a huge extension on a name like Baba and a name like the Baidu. And I know Alex been talking about the Baidu as well. Baidu is kind of a late bloomer. Baidu is kind of it's kind of the dog here. And I would expect the similar thing to happen here. Baidu to get back to 180, 182 within a couple of months. Would you agree, Alex?
Well, again, there's a big compression on the Baidu. Just inspecting on what happens, it usually gets slammed on some earnings announcement or some accounting thing. But long term, this is a company that really has a strong foothold. And I think it's going to be a great thing to play just in the future. So it's one that I just always watch because I know there's going to be good moves either way in the Baidu.
Yeah, guys, our buy on the Baba here, and we went long completely. So this is one of the ones that we saw compression and didn't feel it necessary to go ahead and send out a straddle because, again, I'm also monitoring a lot of the options flow. I'm also monitoring a lot of other things. So we felt confident enough to just go long on this thing. Our long entry was around 3.5 or so, and we're already trading up here to around $5. I think this stock hits about 114. That's what I'm looking at for an exit, 114, 115. And if so, this option is worth, I don't know, $6, $7 easy, possibly even $8. We might be able to get on it. So again, this is a really, really nice trade right now. Sometimes you got to give these time. You have to give these time. And aggressively going for the weeklies, let's say, to go for upside trades on a name like Baba or a Baidu, your timing has to be fucking impeccable. It has to be impeccable. If you plan on making money on a weekly, with a day trade here on a name like Baba, that shit is not easy. It is not going to be easy. So, again, with Turning Point Signals, we offer out mostly swing trades. You are going to get some day trades here and there if we really do like the setup. And those are going to be super quick. So you're going to get the email, you're going to get the private Twitter feed. You got to be ready to react. You have to be ready to react. You can't come in 10 minutes after a freaking day trade and expect to get the same damn price on the option. It doesn't freaking work like that. So we don't send out that many, but when we do, they're pretty hot. They come in pretty hot. Anything else here you want to add in? I think there's a couple of names here these guys want us to talk about, Tesla and the Amazon here. Any comments here on the big FANG names from you, Alex?
What I'm seeing is a lot of these tech giants, people have accumulated so strong ahead of the tax thing. So during sell-offs, they barely even budge, and then when the market springs back, people are right back in these big tech giants. So it's kind of a one-way train in some of these names. Amazon is just like this unicorn that is really hard to catch, and I'm not even allowed to buy it in a lot of my models just because it's so overpriced. But look at that one on the 195. I mean, that's a good example of how powerful these compressions can be. You bought the straddle 314, 315, and it kind of didn't move. You see how it dribbled sideways? Like, that's something that will happen.
Took everybody out right here. Right here, and then look at this. Some of these moves, like he said, though, it's that unicorn type situation, and this is also a situation too where you can't let go of either side of your straddle. I mean, look at how many times they work people in, they work people out, and then finally you see this move. And once that volatility explodes, to catch that top tick, that's also a tough trade as well. A lot of people love selling volatility out here, and when it works, God damn it, it works. But if you're too early, on that? I mean, Alex, I'm sure you have some
Oh
scary,
yeah.
some horror stories about being too early on the sell vol trade on an extension like this, yeah?
And that's one of the reasons I don't really sell naked calls all that often, but I agree. It's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The Tesla is a good example of a runaway train. This thing's
Yep,
got a huge short float, like we said,
yep,
and it has had top signals that have good reactions 1 or 2 days, and then the buyers just come back in. So
yeah,
um,
yeah,
it's one of these things that you kind of got to look at it, see what's going on elsewhere other than just the signals themselves, and
yeah,
maybe kind of formulate some trades.
yeah.
There
And
was
for
some
the
really great bottom signals in this maybe last year, and
Yep,
I haven't really watched it all that much, since then. But
yeah. And guys, I mean, if you guys are out there selling, if you guys are out there selling premium, again, it's a dangerous game here, and the signals really help you zero in though on when you should at least start. But again, just
like
because you
AutoNation,
get,
go to the AutoNation example that we showed last week.
oh
This is
sure,
something that is a little bit more surgical to how I'd feel selling puts. If you just look at the weekly AutoNation,
yep,
uh, the inventories are horrid. The news has never been worse,
right,
and we're not even making a bet that the price is going to stop going down. But you could see that already if you did put spread in here or short puts,
yep,
it's been pretty good the last
yeah.
couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to show that Tesla, like you can see how easily it gets out of hand. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine getting caught in this shit. You know what I mean? Like this is your nightmare. This is your worst nightmare. Sending, let's say selling calls too early on this thing. Yeah, maybe you'll get a little love or something like that, but you got to deal with gap ups. You got to deal with all kinds of stuff. You're going to be right eventually. That ball's going to come off and it's going to get crushed eventually here. But even if, look at these spikes. These spikes are insane. These moves are absolutely insane here, guys. So, keep that in mind here when you're fading stuff. As far as selling premium on turning point signals, we also recommend those as part of, these signals. So, for example, if we send out a signal here on AutoNation with, which Alex was just talking about, you'll get an idea for a long call, you'll get an idea for a long stock, and you'll also get an idea for a short put spread. So we'll outline all those trades singularly for you, so that way you can make the best strategy here for, whatever you want to accomplish here. Let's go ahead and take some questions. HT is saying, are you fielding questions on the members only channel or someplace else? Right here, man, I got you. I see your questions, baby. Could you look at Cyber? You want FEYE or PAN-W? And then Dwayne has a question about oil here. I'm going to hit Dwayne first here, HT. I might not get to you. Don't be mad at me. But Dwayne's got something big here, and he's talking about oil here. Oil is extremely interesting, and I would say the action that has happened over the past couple of days here in oil has got me even, just excited about, something that could kind of come around and maybe help us out a little bit. Going down the line, I think the going to $70 a barrel here for oil is not completely out of the freaking question. There was a huge compression here on USO. We actually played a bounce on USO, and you'll see it come up here shortly here. We played the bounce right here, and I was able to catch a good move here. You'll see it on the track record. I was able to catch a nice long here on USO. And I got out at like 1060. I got out right here. I was like, oil is pretty much shitty. Nothing much is going to happen. This thing came all the way back to 11 bucks. I'm looking just at USO. I don't know what to make of it. You got a lot of topping signals here, so it's got to work itself out. I wouldn't be so aggressive here going long just because of what we're seeing right now, but I don't know.
My favorite play here is actually the RBOB. If you go to weekly RBOB, there's a much better signal. The complex kind of moves together, but that's something that I noticed on the weekend when I was just perusing through all the charts there. Just let it load here for a sec. I think it's at RB.
Yeah, it might be at.
I think your data might be off. You might have to log in.
Yeah, I don't know. What is the RBOB though? Just so that they know.
At RB, it's a big fat weekly compression going on. It's just kind of moving out of the compression. So it hasn't really moved yet, but essentially if you're looking at the chart, it's kind of been range bound between, I guess, $2 and 160. So,
Right.
you know, people like me who look to play a little bit longer game here, I'm just looking for it to clear the highs of earlier this year around $1.90 to $2, and play this thing from the long side.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Some of the flow, some of the options flow that I've been seeing has really hit, you know, names like Nat Gas, some of the oil services, you know, Hess, names like Hess, XOM, stuff like this. Again, like they still kind of look beaten down, but if oil makes a huge move to the upside here, you know, that I think that's going to also do stuff for the market as well. But I think you gotta wait it out. You gotta wait it out. We're going to wait for some of these signals to repop again. Wait for some of the flow to come back in some of the oil names as well. And again, you get that sort of expertise here with turning point signals. You know, we're adding a lot of other stuff into the equation here. We're adding the options flow. We're adding how the tape looks, how volume looks. You know, and just our overall expertise trading the markets. So you really get the best timing here for some of these alerts. I love oil, and I'm kind of just sitting here just waiting for it to do something crazy. And if it does, there's a lot of trades and a lot of opportunity to take advantage of. And then we can, both Alex and I can spew out names. And again, it's all just a matter of waiting. Right now, I love tech, and I love some of these high-flying names, especially if the market can come back you know, out of this sort of compression here and start moving back towards those all-time highs at around 240 on the SPY. You know, I'm looking for that to happen, and if so, what names are going to get pulled with it the best? And I think we're already positioned here. BABA, Microsoft, Visa. We got some of the, we got maybe possible rotation here into some of the pharma. You know, so some of these pharma ETFs, they can move. Banks here still getting bought up. This Expedia, I think we'll just give you another trade. We'll give you an extra trade. This Expedia is almost at all-time highs, 134. Remember, Priceline is already well into those all-time highs. This thing has been trading really well. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing at 140 really soon. So that's another free trade there for you guys. Make sure you give it some time. And again, this is the last month here to take advantage of 50% off for the new Turning Point Signal service. So go ahead and use that link here I just dropped there for you guys. HT, my bad, man. I couldn't get to you. Hit us up next week. We'll take a look at some of the cyber names. Alex, any names here? Anything you want to leave with them here?
Pharma is on my top shelf right now. That's really
Cool.
what I'm frothing for a move. A reason to get long or short. You know, that the signals that we looked at, the IWM and the ES. I know it was kind of a fake on Friday, but
Yep.
you know the move we are expecting is much bigger than what just happened in one day.
Much bigger.
Yeah, I'm looking for this to either go down
Yep.
to 115 or go all the way up to 160, 170.
That's a huge move, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And all that means to us is just crazy opportunity. You know, you're talking about waiting for rallies here to short into, you know, or flip on the other side. And we're not biased. We don't even want you guys to be biased, because bias in our line of the work, especially options trading, bias is basically the devil here. It more or less is the devil. And you guys who are overly biased to a certain position or to a certain direction, you guys know what happens. You guys know what happens.
And I'll stress, you don't need to be in on the first bar after a blue signal. That's not what this is telling you to do. It's saying that a new trend is going to start soon. So, you know, I actually let this thing unfold for a bit, and then you know, try to follow in, try to buy a pullback.
And that's where the expertise comes in, guys. So you guys get us here before you know, these things actually hit the wires and hit your emails and hit your Twitter feeds. As far as trades that can be taken, you know, we scrutinize it to the nth degree for the right trade, whether it's a, you know, short options type of trade, long equity, you know, or just straight long options. So there's a lot of different choices here that you can make. Depends on what you want to do, and it depends on how you want to trade. So take advantage of that that coupon there. And hopefully we'll see you guys soon out on the Twitter feeds.